Hey everyone, it's BDF44 coming at you with another video. Okay, so I would like to discuss Ben Simmons to the Raptors. Probably mentioned Ben Simmons in a million videos over the last 3 weeks, but I read something that reminded me that the Toronto Raptors have been one of the teams that are very interested in him. And I kind of wanted to zero in on what I think of him going there and what I think ultimately of where he would end up anywhere, really. Just Ben Simmons. I think of a couple places we could talk about here. But the first one will be Toronto Raptors. So now looking at their situation, Fred VanVleet is on contract. They just signed him last year, I believe it was, to a pretty close to max, if not max deal. Kyle Lowry is now about to come off the books. He's looking to move on, I believe. Although I never would truly rule him out re-signing with Toronto, because he always re-signs with Toronto, even when it looks like he's about to leave. He's done that a couple times and still re-signs. But this is a different type of situation because the Toronto Raptors actually have the 4th pick in the draft, and there are a lot of point guards available that they could take. And again, Fred VanVleet, who is a point guard, but I like him shooting the ball more than a point guard's asked to, which is why this is an important video. Because in theory, if you don't put Ben Simmons at the point, but allow him to facilitate like Nikola Jokic or something like that, then in theory, the type of player you want to match him up with is Fred VanVleet. a score first point guard, about his age, somebody who can do the things that he can't do, extremely efficient free throw shooter, extremely a smaller guy who's not going to be, you know, if you have a Fred VanVleet led team, you need someone defensive like Ben Simmons, a defensive minded player to kind of couple with him, because he's not a defensive player, he's a shorter guy, that kind of thing. You want to start putting players around him who can help mold a good defensive team. Ben Simmons is definitely that type of player. And in all of the things that gets lost about Ben Simmons when talking about him lately has been the fact that he's elite defensively. If this dude don't ever do anything right on the offensive end ever again, he could still jump on the basketball floor and be a top 10 defender in all of basketball. And that is why I think that Toronto, looking at him, having VanVleet on for as much money as they have him on for, is as good as a fit for Ben Simmons in terms of what you need to build around him and what makes sense. It's about as good as a situation as anywhere I can think of, really. It gets him far away from Philadelphia, but still keeps him in the Eastern Conference. It puts him in a situation where a team has shooters. You know, I think of another guy like Gary Trent Jr. who just got there. He's a shooter. Now, I don't know his situation. I don't know if he's up for an extension. I don't know what's going on there. But I'd imagine they have him as a part of their plans, given that they gave up a very key championship caliber piece in Norman Powell to receive him. Practically a lateral move on both sides, for both teams, if you ask me. But they let go of an NBA champion for a guy who's a bit younger who can pretty much do the same things he can do. And that person fits Ben Simmons quite a bit as well. So now you're looking at 2 pieces that they have in their front, on their roster, that essentially would be pieces that I'd want to bring to Ben Simmons if I were building around him. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. That's why this is interesting to me. Now look at a guy like Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam is an inconsistent star caliber champion. That's what he is. He's a champion. He's shown us that he can score 40 in a game. He can do things that will lead himself to having success in other ways. Rebound a little bit, pass a little bit. You know, he's a guy who can defend a little bit. He can do a lot of things, but what you want him to do, he can score the ball. He's probably the guy that's going to be going back to Philly if they make a deal like this. That's what I think. He's probably the guy headed back to Philly. The thing about Pascal Siakam that I am aware of, and I have limited understanding, I've seen him in the playoffs, in the finals and all that, but I don't watch him as much as I'd like to. But the thing that I've listened to people say about him is that he's sort of like Julius Randle in the sense that he has go-to moves that the rest of the league tends to understand. But unlike Julius Randle opens up the floor for himself by being such an amazing passer. So even though he kind of only goes left and you kind of know what he's going to do, he can use his strength to kind of make it so that even if you know what he's going to do, you can't necessarily stop it. And now he's been able to stretch the floor a little bit. He's opened up the three-point game for himself, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, it's like Siakam's a bit limited because he doesn't pass like that. But if he can stretch the floor a little better and rebound a little better, he might be able to make up for some of the things that he does that people tend to just continue to read. His kind of mechanical moves that he tends to go to. He's going to have to find a way to open those up for himself and, of course, continue to work on his game. But more so until he does get to that point where he can kind of go to other stuff, he needs to find ways to open up the game for himself. But Doc Rivers has had success coaching players of his style. I think about a guy like Tobias Harris. Him and Pascal Siakam are comparable in some ways. They're similar size, similar strengths and weaknesses. I feel like another player like that in Philadelphia, in Ben Simmons' stead, isn't that bad of a consolation prize to your defense, even though he's not going to nearly be the defensive player. What he does is can keep your size strong if you're Philadelphia. He keeps you in a position to continue to have size going forward. Tobias Harris, Pascal Siakam, and Joel Embiid are a trio that are going to create a lot of opportunities for one another by attracting attention. So I like the trade for Philadelphia if they are looking at Pascal, and I think by the numbers it may be something that they'll have to do. I'm not certain, but I think Pascal's been signed, and I think Ben Simmons and him probably are a little comparable in their contracts. I'm not certain, but that makes sense to me. I know Toronto's been looking at him and saying, maybe we want to move on for a little bit now. Particularly last season, he kind of took some steps back well, everybody took some steps back with that situation. They were displaced as a team. So, being that they were in Tampa, not everybody was able to kind of just jump in and play well last season. And as a result, a guy like Pascal had a bad year for his standards. But all in all, I think he still has a lot of value based on what he can bring to the table offensively. And you may be able to get away with trading him for Ben Simmons. It makes sense for both teams, I think. So now Ben Simmons back to Toronto. When you're talking about Ben Simmons, the next thing they're going to have to do is make dang sure that they have a center down there that's capable of shooting the three. I'm trying to figure out how I can get a hold of a guy like Brook Lopez, if I can pry him away somehow from the champs. That's the type of player that I think you need to have on the floor. Maybe not him necessarily, but someone who does what he does. You don't want your center to be a player that needs to occupy the paint as much as an average center. You don't need a non-shooting center. You don't need a Drummond. You don't need somebody like that. What they need is someone who can continue to do some of the similar things that Joel Embiid did, which is why I kind of like another fit that like I said, the Timberwolves. We're going to talk about that because I think, excuse me, I think that's the type of player that you need in order for Ben Simmons to make sense, because he's going to occupy so much of the paint offensively because he doesn't even shoot at all. So it's like you're going to have the same type of thing that the Pelicans have going on with Adams and Zion in terms of spacing. If you don't find a center who's capable of stretching the floor. So if Toronto is really thinking, they'll make sure that they target somebody like that with the fourth pick, in my opinion. I don't know if such a player is in this draft, but they need to use the fourth pick and acquire a player with that type of build, in my opinion. If they are able to keep the pick in the Ben Simmons trade, they should be able to if they attach Pascal Siakam. I'm not giving them the fourth pick in the draft for Ben Simmons and Pascal Siakam, but I'm just saying, you don't know. Maybe they keep Pascal and have to give up the pick. If the Philadelphia 76ers, first of all, let me preface this by saying, if the Philadelphia 76ers are able to turn Ben Simmons into the fourth pick in the draft, you might as well just cancel Christmas because they just got away with a haul. So pretty much scratch that. That's not happening. But I do believe that all in all, that fourth pick could possibly be on the move. And if it is on the move, they should be looking for a player that they can complement Ben Simmons with. especially if they are moving on from Pascal. Now, Pascal, if he's staying and they bringing in Ben Simmons, that's weird. That's weird. Because for me, Pascal, power forward type player, Ben Simmons, even though he's listed as a point guard, I think the best way to play him is at the power forward. I really believe that. I don't think Toronto should put him at the point. Now, of course, he does facilitate. Most definitely, you put him in positions to have the ball in his hands, but you don't have him running that small guard position. You don't do that no more. That didn't work in Philly. It's not going to work with you. You put him at the 4. So, yeah, man, that's what I think. 5 in small ball lineups too. Definitely play him at the 5 in small ball lineups. He's Draymond. He's Draymond. That's what we got to understand about Ben Simmons. He is a better handling, more athletic version of Draymond. Just about. You know, you think about the defensive end, I could argue he's even more talented than Draymond defensively. Better than Draymond in a lot of ways. I think the only thing that I would say is Draymond poses the threat of shooting the ball. Not that he's going to make a lot of threes, but at least you're not going to say, okay, if we leave him out there, he won't attempt. And that's why I say, Ben, just shoot him, man. Just let him brick. I don't care if you shoot him off the side of the backboard. Just put the threat out there that maybe, just maybe, they should run out to you. If it's a maybe they should run out to you, sometimes they might just take that little step away from that defender and creating a passing opportunity for you. But they're never going to do that if they're certain that you're not shooting the ball. And I'm sure you've heard it 106 times. It's time to implement that into your game. The miss is valuable in this case. That's the thing to hold on to mentally. The miss is valuable. If it doesn't clank, it's better than not attempting, literally, for the floor. So that's what I'll say, man. You just got to pick and choose which ones you take. And that's going to be key. But, you know, it is what it is. If you're bashful about shooting, the chances are you're only going to take the ones you feel good about when you do start shooting. So that could turn into a good thing. But all in all, Ben Simmons going to Toronto works. Now, him going to the Minnesota Timberwolves, which is the other team that I think I've been hearing that are interested in him. Perfect fit in the sense that, boy, that's a lot of size. You're talking about bringing in Ben Simmons, who's almost 7 feet. You're adding him to Anthony Edwards, who's a monster, who seemingly should fit well because he shoots the 3 like a madman. I don't know if I'd call him a shooter, but I haven't seen or heard of too many games where he's going 2 for 7 or nothing like that. That dude shoots, and he shoots a lot, and he makes a lot. God, Anthony Edwards is really good, by the way. Yeah. So you look at him, Karl Towns. I think the Karl Towns situation is like you're bringing him back to a situation that he's leaving. The good part of the situation that he's leaving, which is playing with Joel Embiid. You can say whatever you want about Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, but they play off each other very well. Ben Simmons can play with Joel Embiid. Okay, so that's what I want to say. The fit between those two players actually isn't bad at all. So in theory, him going in there with Karl Towns should be something he should pick right up and be able to help Karl get easy buckets and be able to take pressure off Karl in a lot of ways defensively as well. That fit works there. That helps their team a lot. Ben Simmons actually helps the Timberwolves because they do have shooters. I look at a guy like Malik Beasley, assuming he's going to be able to play the season. That's a shooter. The exact type of player I'd want to bring to Ben Simmons if I'm a GM building around Ben Simmons. I look at Ricky Rubio. He's probably a free agent. He's out of there, which means they're going to need a facilitator. Ben Simmons, come on in. I look at a situation like that. They have some guys on their bench, some power forward guys that I know that are on the back of the bench that are pretty good. I can't remember the homie's name, but I made a video about him about 6 months ago or so when he started making noise in fantasy basketball for me. But he didn't really get the opportunities that I thought he would. But guys that are on the back of that Minnesota bench, I think will benefit from playing with Ben Simmons because he's going to get them the ball. A lot of those guys, if I'm not mistaken, they have a good number of guys who could stretch the floor, at least hit 20-footers, things like that, rebounders, dunkers, guys who can get out in the open court with him. And, of course, Minnesota has a draft pick that they can use, maybe make themselves better once they get Ben Simmons. I'm always of the mindset that you need to surround him with shooters. So like I said, Malik Beasley, Anthony Edwards, Karl Towns, all those guys shoot. Beautiful situation there. So if I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves, I think it's the right move. Because the thing about Ben Simmons is you don't want to bring him to a situation where you have to build around him. You want to bring him to a situation where you already have what he needs. So in my mind, I was thinking along the lines of like Utah, even though they have a weird dynamic there with, of course, Rudy Gobert occupying the paint, I would imagine that Ben Simmons would be able to get shooters the ball a lot, and he would make their offense so much faster. So what you would have is Utah getting those same shots more often. So I think the fit there could be kind of cool, but I don't know what they would have to do to make that work. And you'd rather not with Gobert. You'd rather not, honestly. I think Minnesota's a better fit there. So yeah, man, I think the teams that are looking at Ben Simmons have the right idea. Toronto's going to have to figure out what they're going to do in regards to how they acquire him. But if they don't have to give up too much to get him, he's going to take up a lot of your cap. This dude is eating up. He is making money. That's the thing about Ben Simmons. So when you bring him in, you understand it's going to be, he's a max guy. But he's not necessarily going to give you max guy production. Not with what we just saw from his confidence recently. So taking on him is a big risk. But if you understand what he's good at, and you put the ball in his hands and you let him pass the rock to others, yeah, he's a dangerous player. His athleticism is next level. I think it's just about confidence for the guy right now. It's confidence, it's free throw shooting too. So, as I've said a million times in my videos with Ben Simmons, he's not playable until he gets himself together from the free throw line. 3-point shot, we've seen him play this way his whole career. Ups and downs. We've seen the best and worst of him. The 3-point shot ain't the biggest issue. Right now it's the free throw shooting and it's the confidence. So once he works on that aspect of his game, gets himself up to about 72, 73%, at least be playable, the court can start to open up for him once he continues to just focus on passing the rock. Just focus on that. Shooting the ball, just let him clank. Just let him clank. You know, if you're going to miss him, you're going to miss him. But work on it. Work on it. That's all you can do with anything that you're bad at in this world. And that goes for all of us. Just work on it. Find people who are good at what it is you're not. Work with them if you have that a resource. If not, study them from afar on YouTube or whatever. Get better at what it is that you're not good at and give yourself an opportunity out here. You know, you've already made money. That was a mistake on the Philadelphia 76ers part, in my opinion. They should not have paid an incomplete player. I really believe that. If a guy is deficient in such a way that he literally doesn't attempt something that needs to be done on the basketball floor, then by all accounts, he's not a max player. Now, that's definitely an opinion piece on my part. But I think the logic aligns with what we're seeing. He's not getting better. And if there were the incentive of wealth, I'm pretty certain he would. Some guys are self-motivated, others are not. Some guys get satisfied after they get paid. And I think Ben Simmons maybe have had some signs of that earlier on after getting paid. But I think after this offseason, I truly believe he's going to go back into the lab and really see the fruit and getting things right. So hopefully they'll translate to good play for him, and we'll see him back in the All-Star game very soon. Because this is not a guy who sucks at the game of basketball. And I've said this in a video before. This is a guy who just has a difficult time in the era that he's in. But I look at what's going on in the Olympics, and I say he would dominate international play right now. Because he would be, if he was surrounded by shooters, all he has to do is orchestrate and slam and get to the line. And even if he misses at the line, as long as he's continuing to be aggressive inside, he's going to shoot a high percentage in the paint. You know, in this league, it's kind of soft, to say the least. You know, and you can't really touch people. You can't really do stuff like that like you would want to. In international play, he could be more physical defensively. He could body up a little more on the boards. It's not incumbent on him. It's not as incumbent on him to shoot the three because more players on these teams are shooting it. I just think that Ben Simmons might have missed an opportunity, even though he said he wants to go back to the lab and get better. I think getting better would be playing against players that are great. Just get right back out there and run. So he might have made a mistake. I don't know. He might have made a mistake not going to international play. I think that would have got his mind off of things. I'm thinking about Naomi Osaka saying that playing in the Olympics right now is making her feel better. And she's kind of gotten over what the difficulties she was dealing with a couple months back. I don't know why that wouldn't be a place of solitude for a guy like Ben Simmons. You want to work on your game, yes. But the best way to do that is just run. Get out there and play against guys who are trying to knock your head off and do things out there that'll help you, that you need to work on. You know, shoot some threes out there. I don't know. Maybe I got that wrong, but hopefully the guy comes back strong in his new place, and I pretty much think he's going to get traded. It's a difficult contract to move, but those two teams seem to have a plan for him. And if that plan is indeed in place, especially with a guy like Masai Ujiri, you never know. You might see Ben Simmons reach where he's trying to go. You know, he might become the player he's ultimately supposed to be. So, yeah, man, good luck to him. Thank you guys for watching this long video. My name is BDO44. I'm out.